Grandma Rose had raised me after my parents died in a car crash when I was 7. While my aunts Patricia and Linda fought over the insurance money, Grandma quietly took me in and gave me a home filled with love and homemade cookies. Family takes care of family, she'd tell me every night as she tucked me into bed. That's what we do, sweetheart. I believed her then. I believed her even when Patricia and Linda made it clear they resented having to share Grandma's attention with an orphan nephew. They'd visit on holidays, bringing expensive gifts for their own children while giving me generic cards with $5 bills inside. But Grandma never treated me differently. She attended every school play, helped with homework, and saved every penny to send me to college. When I graduated with a degree in computer science, she was in the front row crying with pride. "You did it, baby," she whispered at the ceremony. "You're going to have such a wonderful life." And I did. My software company took off faster than I'd ever dreamed. Within 5 years, we developed 3 best-selling apps and were acquired by a major tech corporation for $47 million. I kept the news quiet, living modestly and investing wisely. Grandma was 83 when the chest pain started. The doctors discovered she needed emergency cardiac surgery, a complex procedure to repair multiple blocked arteries. Without it, she had maybe 6 months to live. The surgery has a 90% success rate, Dr. Peterson explained to our family meeting. But it's expensive. We're looking at around $80,000 for the full procedure and recovery. Patricia, now 52 and married to a successful dentist, immediately shook her head. That's a lot of money for someone her age. Linda, 2 years younger but equally cold, agreed. Mom's had a good run. 83 years is nothing to complain about. I stared at them in disbelief. Are you seriously talking about letting Grandma die because of money? We're being realistic, Patricia snapped. She's old, Alex. This surgery might give her what, 2 more years? 3 at most? That's almost $30,000 per year. It's not economically sensible. Economically sensible? She's our grandmother. Linda rolled her eyes. She's not really your grandmother, Alex. She's your guardian. There's a difference. The words hit like a physical blow. What's that supposed to mean? It means you have no legal standing here, Patricia said coldly. Linda and I are Mom's daughters. We make the medical decisions. And we've decided that expensive surgery for an 83-year-old woman is throwing good money after bad. I looked at Grandma, who'd been sitting silently through this horrible conversation. She looked so small in that hospital bed, her eyes sad but resigned. "What do you want, Grandma?" I asked gently. "I want to see you graduate from that computer program you're starting," she said softly. "I want to meet your future wife. I want to hold your babies someday." "Mom, you're being unrealistic," Linda said harshly. "At your age, you need to accept that your time is limited." "We can't afford this surgery," Patricia added. "Mom's Medicare will cover some of it, but the family would have to pay at least $80,000 out of pocket. Split 3 ways, that's almost $30,000 each. I have my own kids to think about." "I'm not asking you to split anything," I said. "I'll pay the entire amount." They looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "You?" Patricia laughed. "Alex, you work at some little computer company. You live in that tiny apartment and drive a 10-year-old Honda. Where are you going to get $80,000? "I have savings." "Right," Linda scoffed. "And I'm sure you've saved up $80,000 on your little programmer salary. Be realistic." I pulled out my phone and called my bank. Within an hour, I'd arranged a wire transfer for the full amount directly to the hospital's billing department. "It's done," I told Dr. Peterson. "Schedule the surgery." Patricia and Linda stared at me in shock. "How did you?" Patricia began. "It doesn't matter how. What matters is that Grandma gets the care she needs." "You're insane," Linda said. "That's probably your entire life savings." "For what?" "To give an old woman a couple more years. To give the woman who raised me the chance to live." Patricia shook her head in disgust. "You're a fool, Alex. A complete fool. Mom's going to die anyway, probably within 5 years, and you'll have nothing to show for this grand gesture except empty bank accounts. And when she does die," Linda added cruelly, "don't expect us to reimburse you for this stupidity. We told you not to do it." The surgery was scheduled for the following week. Grandma was nervous but optimistic. "You didn't have to do this for me, sweetheart," she said the night before the operation. Yes, I did. You would have done it for me. That money could have been your house down payment, or your wedding fund, or... Grandma, stop. Money comes and goes. I only have one you. She squeezed my hand with tears in her eyes. I love you so much, Alex. You're the best thing that ever happened to this family. The surgery was a complete success. Dr. Peterson said Grandma's heart looked 20 years younger, and with proper care, she could easily live another decade or more. Patricia and Linda visited exactly once during Grandma's 2-week recovery. They brought flowers and made polite conversation for 15 minutes before leaving. Such a waste of money, I heard Linda whisper to Patricia in the hallway. She'll be back in the hospital within a year. 2 weeks after Grandma came home, a registered letter arrived at my apartment. It was from Harrison, Wells & Associates, a law firm I'd never heard of. Dear Mr. Thompson, the letter began, we represent the estate of Rose Thompson regarding her recently updated last will and testament. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to schedule a meeting regarding your inheritance. I was confused. Grandma was very much alive and recovering beautifully. I called the law office. There must be some mistake, I told the receptionist. My grandmother is still alive. One moment, please. I heard typing in the background. No, sir, there's no mistake. Mrs. Thompson updated her, 2 weeks ago, immediately following her surgery. She wanted to make sure all parties were informed of the changes. What changes? I'm sorry, sir, but I can only discuss that with all beneficiaries present. Mrs. Thompson requested a family meeting for next Tuesday at 2 p.m. I called Grandma, who just smiled mysteriously when I asked about the lawyer's letter. You'll find out Tuesday, sweetheart. I think it's time your aunts learned a few things about family. Tuesday arrived, and I found Patricia and Linda already in the lawyer's conference room, looking smug and confident. Finally, Patricia said when I walked in, we were wondering when you'd show up. I assume Mom called this meeting to make sure you understand you're not entitled to anything when she passes. After all, Linda added with a fake sympathetic smile, you're not blood family. You were just her ward. Mr. Harrison, a distinguished man in his 60s, cleared his throat. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for coming. Mrs. Thompson asked me to read her updated will aloud to ensure there are no misunderstandings. He opened a thick folder and began reading. I, Rose Thompson, being of sound mind and body, do hereby revoke all previous wills and testaments. The legal language continued for several paragraphs before getting to the important part. To my daughters, Patricia Wilson and Linda Martinez, who showed their true character by abandoning me in my hour of greatest need, I leave the sum of $1 each to be split between them. Patricia's face went white. What? Mr. Harrison continued reading. To my beloved grandson, Alex Thompson, who may not share my blood but who has shown more love and loyalty than my biological children ever have, I leave the entirety of my remaining estate. That's impossible, Linda sputtered. What estate? Mom lives in a tiny house and drives an old car. Mr. Harrison smiled slightly and turned the page. The estate includes the family home and surrounding property, valued at $180,000. Investment accounts with Fidelity totaling $340,000. Savings and checking accounts totaling $127,000. And the mineral rights to 300 acres in West Texas, recently leased to Texaco Oil for $2.3 million upfront, plus royalty payments estimated at $400,000 annually. The room went completely silent. I stared at the lawyer in shock. Additionally, Mr. Harrison continued, Mrs. Thompson wanted me to read this personal note. Patricia and Linda, when Alex needed a family, I gave him one. When I needed my family, only Alex was there. He spent $80,000 of his own money to save my life while you two argued about the cost. Now you know what real love costs, and what losing it costs even more. Alex, you saved my life. Now I'm securing yours. Use this money to build the family you deserve. Patricia was hyperventilating. She can't do this. We're her daughters. We have legal rights. Actually, Mr. Harrison said calmly, Mrs. Thompson has every right to distribute her estate as she sees fit. The will is legally sound and properly witnessed. But the oil money, Linda gasped. When did she? Mrs. Thompson inherited the mineral rights from her father in 1962. She's been collecting modest royalty payments for decades and investing them wisely. The recent Texaco lease was quite lucrative. I sat there stunned, trying to process the numbers. Nearly $3 million plus $400,000 a year in oil royalties. There must be something we can do, Patricia said desperately. She's being manipulated. Alex influenced her to change the will. The will was changed after Mrs. Thompson witnessed her family's behavior during her medical crisis, Mr. Harrison replied. She was quite clear about her reasoning. Quote, "When I was dying, they calculated the cost of saving me. When Alex was orphaned, I never calculated the cost of loving him." Patricia and Linda spent the next hour demanding to see documentation, threatening lawsuits, and making increasingly desperate arguments about undue influence and mental incompetence. But the will was ironclad. Grandma had planned this carefully, working with lawyers who specialized in estate planning. She'd even had a psychological evaluation done to prevent any claims of diminished capacity. 6 months later, Patricia and Linda were still fighting the will in court, spending more on legal fees than they would have inherited under Grandma's old will. Meanwhile, Grandma and I used some of the oil money to travel together. We visited Europe, toured the Holy Land, and spent a month in Hawaii. At 84, she was healthier and more energetic than she'd been in years. "Do you regret it?" I asked her one evening as we watched the sunset from our hotel balcony in Rome. "Regret what, sweetheart? Leaving everything to me. They are your daughters." Grandma smiled and patted my hand. "Alex, they stopped being my daughters the moment they decided I wasn't worth saving. You became my real son the moment you decided I was worth everything." But $80,000 was the best investment I ever witnessed. It showed me exactly who my family really was. The oil royalties continue to come in monthly. I've used the money to start a foundation that helps cover medical expenses for families who can't afford life-saving procedures. Every year, we help dozens of people get the surgeries they need. Patricia and Linda eventually dropped their lawsuit when their legal fees exceeded $100,000. They both still live in the same town as Grandma and me, but we rarely see them except at the grocery store, where they pointedly ignore us. Sometimes I drive past their houses and think about how different things could have been if they'd simply said, "Whatever it costs, we'll find a way to save Mom." But they chose money over love. And in the end, their greed cost them everything money can't buy, and most of what it can. Grandma is 90 now, still going strong. Last week, she was playing with my 6-month-old daughter, her first great-granddaughter. "4 generations," she said, bouncing baby Rose on her lap. That surgery was the best $80,000 anyone ever spent. I couldn't agree more.